No, just got a notification. Apparently we're live. Welcome back to PT Breakfast Club. I'm your host, Jimmy McKay. We will be digging into things that I think it lurks in the Facebook groups around our profession and other professions too, which is how to get people in the door. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but why do books have covers? So how can you entice people to pay attention and eventually, hopefully, spend time with you? How much should you be giving away for free? Or should you gatekeep literally everything? We'll dig into that. So today, the episode titled Physical Therapy Sales Secrets, Live Strategies to Grow Your Client Base. And as always, want to set the stage. If you have questions, comments, success stories, or if you think we're being cryptic, you can write in the comments below. Without further ado, let's bring in my co-host today, as always, from the land of Ohio, Tony Maritato, and from Gotham City, Dave Kittle. Welcome, gentlemen.
Dave is the Batman of the show.
I saw you running shirtless was that what bridge? Was that the George Washington Bridge?
No, that was Verrazano, South Brooklyn.
Bridge. The Forgotten Bridge.
You know what's funny talking about running shirtless? So I grew up in middle Florida, like Sarasota. Everybody was shirtless. My first physical therapy clinic was a block from the beach. Patients would ride up on their bike. They'd be covered in like baby oil and no clothes except their swimsuit. To me, it was totally normal. Like that was my life. Then I come to Ohio. And I remember mowing the grass shirtless, and everybody around the neighborhood was looking at me like, what the heck are you doing? Put clothes on.
Too conservative.
Yeah, it was such. Now I wouldn't even dream of going out without a shirt. It's just such a different culture.
Time and place, man. I did one of my PT clinical rotations my observation hours in Myrtle Beach. And I remember like same thing, like someone walking in a bathing suit, maybe with like a little cover up or something. It was not like, I was like the New Yorker going like, what's up with the girl in the bathing suit? And then like a month later, you're just like, yeah, what's the like, that's the thing. It's like, it's just norms. You're just used to it.
Let's talk about that first. It'll play into like the
I can see
experience in selling. I remember when I started the clinic down in Florida, it was routine. We would go in like shorts. This would have been early 2000. We were wearing cargo shorts, and then we got, the breathable like polo shirt that we would wear. That was the standard. Girls, females could wear whatever they wanted to wear, but it was basically the same thing, athletic wear. I see a lot of posts in Facebook groups where therapists are wearing, everything from, I don't see as many of the white lab coats, but I see Lululemon and yoga pants to more conservative, khakis, slacks, things like that. I see therapists in like heels and dress shoes. It's just crazy. What do you guys think about that? What do you want to see in the clinic? You're going to a therapist. You're not the therapist. What are you expecting them to be dressed like?
I mean, dress for the job you want, not the job you have, but it's also dress for the patient that you want, right? Like I would say you dress for what you're projecting, what you're hoping to deliver. That's what I would say. So like, Gene Shirakbrad and Ben Fung, I think, were the guys who were on this rant back when I was in PT school, the hashtag no polo, because that was sort of like, it was so cliche. Like if SNL did a skit on physical therapy, the very first thing they would say is like, well, we got to have khakis in a polo. And that is the mayonnaise of outfits, right? Khakis, polo, and like New Balance white running sneakers was like the unofficial motto of physical therapy. And I think I know we're supposed to disagree sometimes on the show to create tension, but I think we might be in agreement. I think Dave's giving me the look. We're like, dress for whoever. If you want to work with like rock climbers, you should wear what rock climbers wear. Maybe you don't need to wear the spandex if you're going to work with runners, but you should look like what a runner would wear when they're not necessarily running. So I think dress for the audience.
Dave, what do you do?
Definitely dressing for whoever you want as your ideal patient or client. I think personally, there's some bias here because whether it's Gene Shirakbrad, and they're doing great with Recharge and other practices that are doing more like barbell and kettlebell stuff and all that. I personally, like, I'll wear this. Like I have 2 clients today. I'm wearing, this is a Collars and Co shirt with the guns out.
There you go.
Lululemon pants, but I'm not wearing respectfully, everyone's different, but I'm not wearing like a vintage t-shirt, like just like a t-shirt, like a V collar. I don't know. That's just me. Now, there's other places they're rocking it. They're doing great. They're charging a couple $100 a visit across the country, different places, and they're wearing Lululemon pants, spandex pants, and t-shirts, whatever. Cool. That's great. My clientele, my middle-aged to geriatric, busy New Yorker, I think has some perceptions around the physical appearance. You see the physical appearance within the first 5 or 10 seconds of meeting a new person. Yeah. And this kind of ties back into that Twitter post, the tweet from a while ago. So the physical fitness of the individual, or the physical like presentation. We can get into more of it, but like if me or my therapist enter a building in New York City to go see a patient that lives there, I just want it to be as fast as possible. So like, hey, I come in, hey, this is Dr. Dave, or Dr. Kittle. I'm here to see so-and-so in this apartment. As opposed to, I don't want like these doormen to like try to send one of my therapists up like the service elevator because they look, ragtag. So I have some, perception. I have some beliefs around this, but yeah, let's see what the comments are saying.
Let's go to the comments. Scott's saying, depends. Are you dressing for the patients? Or are you dressing for doctors, your referral sources? How about we dress for ourselves? Well, I think that's what we're saying. Like when I was in peds, man, I wore REI hiking pants that zipped off for shorts and funny t-shirts because I was dressing for that was for me though. I was like, great, I get to wear this. Awesome. But when I was working in a more sports clinic, I was wearing Under Armour, different stuff. It was a polo, but it was also a short sleeve, all those different things. Didn't think we'd be going this deep in fashion, did you?
I want to take it one step further, but don't forget, this is part of a recruitment strategy. We've talked about hiring therapists. I know plenty of therapists that won't work somewhere because of what they're expected to wear and will choose to work at a different place because they can wear what they want to wear.
Yeah.
How do you see this? And have you guys had this conversation going back to the Olympics? So I've been seeing lots of short videos talking about the men's beach volleyball uniform versus the women's beach volleyball uniform, why the men are more covered up. There is a hilarious comedian who talks about this. He says, he says some funny stuff about how men basketball players wear the long shorts and the baggy shirts, and they can move just as fast and just as well as the women who are wearing very, very small uniforms. What are your thoughts? This is still part of branding, right? It's part of experience they're delivering.
Yeah, it's a big part of branding. I thought you were going to go with the French pole vaulter there when we were talking about outfits there for a second. Might have won a gold medal if his shorts were a little more secure. Yeah, I think everything's normal until it's not. Like, look at what fashion trends were 25 years ago. And cargo shorts, very functional. We're everywhere now, and now not so much. Now it's something different. So I think it's normal until it's not when someone points it out.
So the other day, Tony posted something from like from the Olympics, 1908, I think it was. And there was women doing archery, and they were wearing like full on thick, maybe wool dresses. Thick wool, over 100 years ago. Now with the beach volleyball, I don't know if I can comment on what the men's uniform is. It does look like, I guess what we would all wear potentially on average, like going to the beach. However, I think the current, and I don't think we're really qualified to talk about this per se, but like the current uniform for the women beach volleyball, I'm assuming morphed and came from the average bathing suit that many women are currently wearing on a beach somewhere where there might be an impromptu game of beach volleyball, whether it's like Miami, South Beach has a lot of volleyball courts or anywhere else. So I'm assuming that's where Nike or whatever company came up with these very clad women's beach volleyball uniforms compared to the men. So I'm not really sure.
It's
I'm gonna call it right now. We're gonna see the pendulum swing. We saw it in everything else, right? People were drinking alcoholic beverages, and now it's swinging away from that. It's always gonna go back. We're gonna see somebody come out, an amazing athlete, fully dressed, pants and a long sleeve shirt. They're gonna crush it, and then we're gonna see the trend start to switch back.
It all is, right? Like that's the idea, is everything that's small is big and big is small. Now the image I'm about to put on the screen might seem photoshopped, but it's not. And this is actually from my alma mater. This was a basketball player, and we want to talk about things that they get huge, then they get small. So, oh gosh, what was this, Marquez Green? So I don't know his official height,
Yes.
but this is not photoshopped. Like, he was wearing this because this was like normal, or
definitely the 90s or early 2000s.
This is early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, and then it went like the other direction, right? And now you see like a lot of the jerseys being like kind of curled up. You even go to sports when like being covered up is like 100% normal. Hockey, the amount of skin exposed is pretty minimal and stayed there. But the tightness of a jersey, I mean, Gretzky was famous for wearing an oversized jersey and doing the tuck on one side. And he actually did a great episode. He did a podcast episode where he talked about that. He was 9 playing with 15 years old. That was the smallest jersey they had. So he had to tuck. So his was functional, but it became fashion because who didn't want to tuck like the great one? So listen, this is just, it's changing. Here's the thing. Here's the final thing before we move on to sales secrets. In my opinion, I'll close with this. I think now that we're all shooting videos and photos of ourselves, we're able to look at our colleagues a lot more and see what other people are doing, where maybe 15 years ago, figuring out what someone else was wearing, you'd have to visit their clinic. Or if you met them at CSM, you're like, are you wearing that at clinic? Or are you just wearing that because we're at a conference together? And now the invisible is visible almost 24 hours a day.
Dave, why don't you kick off the sales talk? What are some of the strategies? We talked about things like free samples, pay up front, all of these different ideas. What do you like best? Because the sales process also goes to the culture of your business and gives the client, kind of sets them up for success or failure. Sure.
So again, we're doing mobile concierge visits, and we don't do any, I mean, we'll do a free intro phone call. I mentioned to you guys in the chat, we might do an intro phone call. Obviously it's free, and we're speaking to either the patient or client themselves, or we're speaking to the decision maker. So that could be if someone is 70, 80, 90 years old, maybe we're speaking to their son or daughter, or in some cases, sometimes we have some of the minors, the dependents of our clients. So maybe someone who's 13, 15, under 18 years old. And then therefore, then we're speaking to the mother or father who we're going to have their credit card or debit card on file. So, but we don't do any free discovery visits, free samples, taster sessions, whatever you want to call these things. I do think the caveat would be there's a difference between if you have a brick and mortar office, then I think it does make a little bit more sense to consider those things, because you already have a lease, you already have the space, you and or your therapist are already going to be there. You could schedule these times. I think with an outpatient office, if you're cash-based or you're trying to move into being cash-based, I think it does make a little bit more sense to potentially consider these, even if it's a tour, like, hey, Tony, or, it sounds like you might be on the fence, you're calling around, you're interested. Why don't you stop in, check out the place? Then you can kind of meet in person. Then, of course, meeting in person always has a higher conversion rate. You're building more rapport in person. For our practice right now, we just don't offer any of that. So we'll do like a long extended, no time constraint phone call. That way we can really start to build some rapport over multiple minutes. And then it's kind of like, here's the out-of-pocket rate, or if they have out-of-network insurance, we'll check their insurance. So we don't do too much of that. We'll certainly get into more of it. And I think, again, there's just a difference between home, mobile visits, because like if I'm going to send my therapist there, like I've done this where I've done free visits from previous patients that I'm trying to get my therapist to kind of reactivate. Like I might have treated years ago. Right. That doesn't always work well. I've had some patients that truly said that they can't really afford it. We've tested it where I'm like, okay, this will be $100 visit, but I'm also paying my therapist $100. So I know I'm on purpose. I'm breaking even on this. Like I've tested this, and those usually don't convert into like a full plan of care, or some of our ideal clients who stay with us for years. So I'm still kind of testing and working it out. What seems to work the best is like we go through the normal phone call. We can obviously talk about what we discuss on these phone calls. And it really like, I'm not really trying to overcome objections anymore. I used to try to do that. It's really like we're on the phone after 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
This person is either our ideal client or they're not.
So Tony, I'm sure you're going to chime in here. I love and hate these. Like, so we're talking about like specifically like the free put it up on the lift and see what's wrong. And then I'll tell you how much it is to fix it. And then you decide if you want to fix it here or somewhere else. I love and hate these because I try to think who does it and who doesn't. You go to the local mechanic to put it up on a lift. They're not putting it on a lift unless you're paying them. That's my time and my money. And then I go to the other end of the spectrum, which is like Apple. You can make an appointment with a Genius at a Genius bar. Sure, they'll talk to you all day because they understand. I think Apple understands we've built the ultimate home court advantage in an Apple store. This thing isn't even a store. It's a playground. Like you walk in, it's like Target for me. It's my kryptonite. Like I walk in there with no aspirations of buying anything, just check some stuff out. And I walk out $300 lighter and I'm never going to leave Apple. And I think Apple understands that. So I both love and hate these things, in terms of like the tester. I think it's how you frame it. And here's the thing. I think it comes down to where on the funnel or where in the patient's life cycle they are. Like Dave talked about reactivating a former patient, how to touch base there. Does this person not have any idea who you are? And the first thing you say to them is, my time is worth nothing. That hurts me. Like that it hurts me for people when I see them doing that. And yet when people DM me and they go, hey man, can you jump on a call? I of course go, absolutely. So I've just devalued myself too, but I'm also playing the math game where I'm like, if I have a half hour, I can tease. I'm looking at it like I'm figuring out if you're the perfect organization. Are you committed enough to pay enough for that? So I go back and forth. I'm in the peri-aqueductal gray of this. I'm not sure which way to go. Tony, help me understand. Should I love or hate these?
I think Jimmy just said it depends.
Yeah.
So I do want to go back to Dave because I want to hear the mechanics of that call. I want to hear the intent. Last night I was teaching in my 0 to paid course. We were talking about that first phone call, and most of us are going to get inbound first phone call. That's the way a prospective new client is going to reach us. And we should have an objective measure. What is the function of that first phone call?
Good.
Is it to book the appointment?
Good.
I've said publicly, for me, I hate anything free on the first contact. I don't see value in it. I think it's useless. If I'm sitting in Dave's shoes and somebody's going to spend 20 minutes on the phone with me, they're already sold. Like the only thing I can do is mess it up, So I hate anything free on the front end. I will give unreasonable amounts of free stuff on the back end. I will give you free anything forever once we have a relationship. But for me, the primary function of that first contact is book the evaluation and get it done. My objective within 24 hours of the phone call. And I've told you guys, like when we were in a location that had doctors across the hall, a patient would walk across from the doctor with a referral in hand. As soon as I saw that piece of paper, even though I was working with a booked appointment, I had a patient with me, I would grab that person and do a 10-minute evaluation. I would not let them leave without getting an evaluation done and in the books because anything could happen once they walk out that door.
Yeah. If
a patient calls, they're not in person, immediately it's, let's do an evaluation today at 4 p.m. Let's do an evaluation tomorrow morning at 8 p.m. I am pushing to get that done. I'm not saying when would you like to start,
right?
Because that's not the function of that first call. That call is to get the evaluation booked. And then from there, we start to build trust and rapport and all the relationship stuff. But that's my model. My model is I sell minutes. I sell CPT codes. I need to, keep that schedule consistent, knock off the peaks and fill in the troughs. Like that's what I'm trying to do to manage the capacity.
It sounds like you understand that it's binary. It's like if this person has a referral, they are walking around holding this thing in front of them saying, I need this, right? And I walked across the hall. And if I don't book them now, if I let them leave, there's a chance they go and date someone else. And I don't want that chance because they just told me they're in the market for a relationship. I'll give you an example. I'm looking for a moving company. And this is the first time I've ever hired a moving company for my dad because I'm not blowing out my back helping my dad move. I'm like, mid 40s, we can afford a moving company to move some of my dad's stuff. And I went online, literally did the thing that everybody does, moving company, my zip code. And then here's the thing. The thing that I found was fill this out. Just give us your details. When are you looking? What's the zip code you're going from and to? What's your name? What's your phone number? That was it. I got 2 phone calls within 20 minutes within 20 minutes. One was within the first 10, I think. And then I decided to go with, company A this morning at 7:50. I got to give it to this guy because he sounds like he's just a guy with a truck. 7:50. Hey, did you make your decision? I filled this thing out yesterday at 3:00 because he realizes if you're second place, you might as well be 400th place. It does not matter.
So Dave, let's go back because you have shared the details and I love it. And I think people will want to hear it again. Kind of take us through your first conversation.
So high level is you mentioned something that I think I initially might disagree with. So like the first couple of minutes, I don't really know. I need to make sure that they're the right fit for us and that they're the right, that we're the right fit for them and that they're the right fit for us. I think it sometimes takes a few minutes. I don't think you can do it in 2 to 5 minutes sometimes, but it depends on the call. But high level is I want to ask some questions. I want to build some rapport. I want to, first of all, up front, we need to make sure I need to know your address or your location, because otherwise, if I don't have a therapist that covers your area, we're all wasting time. So I always up front, hey, they'll say like, hey, do you take this insurance or whatever? And it's like, hey, we'll get to that. We'll get to insurance and cost and logistics, or insurance, cost, and potential logistics. Potential logistics is like, we're the one providing the service. We want to kind of show a little bit higher status. So we're not even talking about logistics yet, Tony. We're talking about potential logistics. So I need to make sure we even cover your area, because if not, there's no point of us even talking. I'll have to refer to my network or something like that. And then it's like, okay, if Tony is at the corner of 55th and 3rd Avenue, okay, yeah, we cover the Upper East Side or the Murray Hill or Midtown East. We cover that area. So we'll go through and you want me to go through the whole thing?
Yeah, whatever you want to
go. So, Tony or some potential patient is calling in. The answering service that I use gives a lot of information already. So right now, if someone calls into my practice, I'm not answering the phone. I'm on this call with you guys. So there's an answering service that collects the information and presents it and sends an email and a text message to me. I can listen to the call if I want to, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of answering services out there. You can just Google any of them. They're all pretty good. They're good enough. But it's real humans answering the phone, and they take down whatever information you want. So for us, it's obviously the location, name, phone number. If they want to proceed into insurance, it's like we have to collect the insurance information and confirm with them, which is crazy, but confirm with them. By the way, we don't have a brick and mortar office. We come to you. Is this what you want? You want in-home physical therapy or therapy in your office or your hotel room if you're a tourist, whatever.
So let me stop you right there. Let's go back and forth on this, and Jimmy, jump in with any aspect. So last night we were talking about that. It's interesting because I didn't even think of a human answering service from my perspective, because my business model is different. I'm selling CPT codes. So I'm not converting anybody. Everybody is coming expecting to do therapy. I don't have to sell anybody on the idea of therapy. Everybody is expecting insurance to pay for it. They just want to get it done. So I had said last night, I barely have a front desk anymore. I barely have one part-time admin person. So how do I automate as much of that process as possible? One of the things that I said was, if they call, I'm usually the one answering, even if I'm hands-on with a patient. And this is the culture of my clinic, different from yours. Even if I'm hands-on with a patient, hey, John, give me just a second. Let me answer this phone call. It might be a patient who needs something. I step away. I answer the phone. If I don't answer the phone, it goes to voicemail. I should have, I can't say that I do have my voicemail set up so that there's some indication if this is a new patient calling to schedule a physical therapy appointment, leave a phone number that I can text or an email, and I will send you, the intake paperwork and questionnaire. And then it automates so that as soon as I see that, boom, I text them out the link. It lets them upload their insurance cards, a HIPAA compliant platform, lets them book one of two options. They don't get unlimited booking appointments. They just either, today or tomorrow at this time, and everything there is automated. Then when I have the time, I would reach back out to them. But I can run a very mechanical operation like that because, again, my people are already committed. They're already sold. Even if they don't want to come, they're coming to therapy.
Right. Yeah, I
And
think it matters in the model.
for this answering service, it's a human, but anywhere from $300 a month to maybe $800 or $900 a month. If I'm running a ton of ads and we're getting a lot more calls because you're paying like a monthly fee plus like extra dollar amount.
They're actually not trying to close. They're trying to get. It sounds like they're trying to get rid of all the people that are wrong.
Well, a little bit of filtering, and ultimately they're aggregating the lead information so that way I can look at the text or the email. I can glance at it. I don't even have to listen to it anymore. I can look at it and kind of see what's the message. So, for example, my ideal client the message will say, I have Medicare or I have United Healthcare, but if you guys don't take that, how much is it out of pocket? That's my ideal client. When the message says, do you take United Healthcare in network? That's not that almost never converts, right? So they'll collect the information, the insurance information. I'll get the address or the approximate location. So I can glance at that and I can just know right up front, like we do or do not even cover that area. If we don't even cover that area, we might just like text the patient. It's like, hey, we don't have a therapist that covers that area. Sorry. Or, we'll try to find someone, but otherwise, keep looking or something like that. So there is a little bit of filtering there for sure.
Yeah. Different
Would
models.
you ever consider like AI voice automation where instead of a human, you can set up to have AI answer your phone? It sounds like a human voice. And then you basically a modern version of a chatbot, you can program it to then go down the route of collecting more information based on the previous responses.
Again, $300 to $800 per month is not that big of a deal for me. So that voice has got to be really good because I think maybe I'm biased, but I think my ideal clientele, like historically, I didn't have the answering service, right? So like people would not leave a voicemail. I know Ron Miller and other practices in other states, people leave voicemails or they don't leave a voicemail and he calls back and then they answer. In 2016, 2017, whatever, I didn't have this answering service. So I would get calls. They would not leave a voicemail. I would call and text back. They wouldn't answer. So in New York City, or maybe it's just a local thing, people need the phone answered or they want the phone answered and ideally by a human. So that voice has got to be really, really good in my opinion. Because otherwise, unless I was spending thousands of dollars on this and I was like, all right, maybe this app would be interesting to save some money. But the app would have to be really, really good for me to consider dropping the answering service that is only a couple $100 a month.
I think this also depends because I'm wearing my grout fit. I got gray. If I'm looking to get information, I want a human. Like I'm hitting 000 human operator. I'm screaming it into the phone operator. If I'm trying to change something or update something, I have no problem if it's like a chatbot AI push this. For example, when I help take care of my dad, I sometimes have to call in medications and they have an answering service set up to the point where it's not even a human anymore. So if I'm like, hey, I need to call in a medication, I have the code written down. It's 4 and then 2 and then it gets me to a beep, leave your message. And I say the name of my dad's doctor. Here's the medication. Here's what we need. Here's the address of my pharmacy. I'm kind of cool with that. I don't need a human to do that. But if I want to change an appointment, if I can't do it with the buttons, just operator. So I think this depends.
So my callers do ask questions, and then the answering service is like, hey, sorry, I'm just with the answering service. They are busy right now. They're with another patient, or this call got sent to the answering service. So I don't have the answers, but they do have some answers. They have like a prospective caller will say, where's your office location at? And then the person that's at the answering service in their software, they pull up and they're like, oh yeah, this place doesn't have a brick and mortar office. They travel to you. Is that what you're looking for? So they can answer some questions. Prospective patient caller will ask about which insurances do you guys take, and or even how much is it out of pocket if they don't have insurance. The answering service does not have the answers to those, but they will say on the answering service, I don't have those answers, but I can have Dr. Kittle or someone from his team call you back in one business day. Usually it's the same day, but in the next day or two, we'll call them back and we'll answer those questions. So the prospective callers do ask questions. And that's another thing that would kind of scare me with the voice thing. I do agree. Like the voice app for transactional all day.
How customizable, or like how much interaction do you have with the answering service to like sort of let them know what, because they're just in a center or they're at their house and they're just picking up calls as they come in. I'm sure on the screen it says you're answering for Dave. How much like did you have like, hey, this is how we talk, or did you write a script? Was there a macro?
It's less of a script. It's really just like the fields that they need to get information from. And what's interesting I've been using one or two of these answering services at least for maybe 4 years or something. And for the cost, the cost is very low in my opinion. For most of these answering service people most of them are surprisingly very professional. And the ones that are not or awkward, I can score the caller, the agent. And I can say, this agent is very awkward. Please do not ever have this agent answer my phone ever again. This was extremely awkward. Or I'll say, like, sometimes the caller is very rude. New York City, it's shocking. So I say I'll write a little thing and I'll score that agent as excellent. I'll say, hey, I listened to the call. This caller was very rude. You handled it excellently. Thank you so much for your professionalism. And that way, maybe they get kudos or they get a raise or whatever inside their answering service company. So most of them are very professional, and but there's not so much of a script. It's really like just things, information, data points that they need to collect. All the contact information, location, and then they do ask, hey Jimmy, well, would this be private pay? Would this be through your insurance or would this be private pay? And then they'll get insurance if they want to give their insurance information. Most of the time, people don't even have their card handy. It's like insurance is important to them, but they don't even have an insurance card handy. Like, it's crazy. But then someone will say, well, how much is it? And then they'll say, oh, I don't have that information in front of me, but I will definitely have someone from the practice call you and get those calls answered. And usually we can call that person back in a timeline that still surprises them. Like, you don't have to be that good in healthcare to actually get, to surprise and delight your prospective patients.
Yeah, the bar is low.
So let me ask you, I shared this yesterday, and I would be curious to hear what both you guys have to say. So one of the things is telehealth is still covered through Medicare until the end of 2024, December 31st. One of the strategies that is kind of, when I think about the function of that first call, I love to get all the information I possibly can on the first call. If I have the time, my admin staff used to do it. We would ask, why are we seeing you? What's been going on? What makes it better? What makes it worse? What other procedures have you had? All of the stuff. Most of my evaluation would theoretically be done at that first phone call. But the problem was that was not a billable event. With telehealth, and really with the changes in technology, we're at the point now where theoretically a new patient could call. I already have their name on the voicemail. Usually it's the right name. I already have their phone number on the voicemail. I could see a world where I could say, hey, I've got a couple minutes. Would you like to switch to a voice call or a video call so that we can get all this paperwork out of the way? And when you come in, you don't have to do anything except sign a single form. Now, it's a convenience to the client. And I think enough of them would say yes, that it's worth at least the offer. If they say no, no big deal. But then what would happen is I would say, is this your cell phone number? Can I text you a link? And they would say yes. And then we'd end that call. I'd text them a link to a HIPAA compliant platform that allows telehealth. And there's at least 2 that are still free. CV, the letter SVEE, and Doxy. You can immediately send them a link. They don't need an app to download. And then you can turn that initial contact into a telehealth visit that is a billable event. So that whether you're a mobile therapist, you're a brick and mortar therapist, you get that evaluation done by phone, you get all the information you need. Maybe there's a couple measurements you get on the first follow-up. And now you've just recovered 15 or 20 minutes that you would have spent in an interview, that it's a billable event, and then you go straight into treatment the first time you're face to face. Would you guys see a world in which people are doing this just routinely?
Hell yes. And here's why. I think more and more people are understanding that they value their time more than almost anything else. So, and actually, I don't think she's watching right now, but she was watching earlier. I think it was Christine who was on the stream on LinkedIn. was, I think it was her, I want to give credit, was how did she frame it? I don't think it's perfect yet, but it's close. Like back pocket PT. Like, do you want a PT in the back of your pocket? And her ad was essentially like someone putting their phone in the back pocket. And that's what you want. Like, we talked about this on an earlier episode. Like, when Spotify was coming out and I was still working in radio, I was like, oh my gosh, Pandora was first, sorry. And it was like, but my boss was like, we sell access and we sell companionship. Music's quite literally the background. Yeah, Christine, was that, I think that was her back pocket PT. What were you saying?
A sidebar, Christine wrote back with the uniforms for the men's beach volleyball. She wrote, men should wear jeans, no shirts, and aviators. You guys know what that's from, right?
Top Gun, baby.
Top Gun, absolutely.
Yeah.
Christine, thank you so much for the live
Maverick,
comment. Thank you
Goose,
for joining in.
Ice, Slider.
Iceman.
One of the most random, does not progress the plot, has nothing to do with the movie, just a bunch of dudes. Who would play beach volleyball in jeans? What heathen is this?
West Coast, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, I got to admit this. The first time I went to a CrossFit workout, it was a community WOD and anybody could come.
Don't even say it.
I did wear cargo shorts, like thick canvas cargo shorts and some shirt or something. They were
so
like,
that you could put more weights in your pocket.
Yeah.
Right?
All right, quick left turn. What do you guys think about these things like health fairs, 5Ks? You know, is it worth the therapist time? That mobile therapist who's trying to get started, going out, giving free massages, doing that kind of stuff.
Oh, I could go either way on this too.
Yes, chiropractors have built their entire profession on it. Outside, like at every health fair, there's usually a chiropractor. In Brooklyn here, there's these summer strolls, and like, I don't know how many, 6 or 10 or whatever blocks are shut down and families are out, and there's vendors and, you know, food trucks and a whole bunch of other things. And guess what? Across, whether it's New Jersey, where I'm from, Philly, where I went to school, New York City, other states, chiropractors are always at every health fair, and they do it. They'll put a spine model and a table in front of whatever, the Acme, the grocery store, whatever it is. And they, I believe, have built their entire, all their profits, all their revenue, all their income, their whole profession based off of touching more people in the community. It's a numbers game. It's a volume game for them, and it works. If you're a mobile therapist, you probably have more time than money, and you absolutely should do those things.
I think it depends, and I'm playing the depends card hard. I think if you do it crappy, you'll look crappy, and I think if you do it well, you do it well. And I tell people, unless you're doing it well, don't do it. So if you're showing up with, like, you know, the Bills Mafia table that people break every tailgate at a Bills game, and a tent, and that is it, you will look like you spent $28 at Costco. If you're Josh Funk at Rehab to Perform and you roll up with an F-150 and a trailer that is logoed, sorry, the picture's grainy, look at that giant QR code, right? Look at that giant logo. Look, it's brought to you by Hyperice. And I don't have a photo, but when you open that, it's a bunch of plush chairs, like big,
like lazy boys,
leather chairs, and then the guns and the Normatec leg things and the this and the flat screens. So, like, I'm sure if you were in a meeting at some clinic and you were like, hey, I need, what do you think that costs? Let's say 60 grand, right? To do everything. Logo, trailer, insurance, not even counting the truck, right? Because the truck's going to be 60, 70 grand on top of it. But like, and you might say, like, well, how are we going to make the money back, Jimmy? Like, how are we going to make, are we charging people $8 to get massage gun? And I bet you Josh Funk is like, no, we're not doing anything except showing people what we're worth. But I bet you there's someone walking around with an iPad going, when can we get you in? You're a little sore from this 5K. So
name, email.
Should you do this is, if you're going to do it well, yes. If you're going to show up with a crappy banner and looking like you could be at a flea market next week, don't.
So, and he, by the way, he posted somewhere on social media, maybe with that post, that he did that with the trailer and everything. He wanted it to be different than all of the other pop-up tents and the regular tables at whatever health fair or health event or a sporting event. Yeah. It's different. And also it could be raining and you could, it could be really hot and sunny and the athletes can just go inside the that trailer and they're out of the elements. So like it's just, you close it up and it's like everything is packed in. So there's no like unloading and loading back.
I've done a few of these, and I remember like maybe the night before, I was never the clinic manager, but being like, what are we going to do when we get there? Like, hang out, say hi to people. And I'm like, that sounds like a bad plan, guys. Like, be yourself. I always get the be yourself. And I'm like, okay, like what's my call to action? Hey, like you don't have to, Josh's people don't have to have a call to action. The thing speaks for itself. People are lined up. So I'd say the answer is yes, if you're going to do it well, and hard no, if you're going to show up and you're not going to put any effort into it.
Yeah, mine was always a hard no. I hated those things. I did it. I would look at the ground. I wouldn't make eye contact. It was miserable. And it was just a complete waste of time because I was not the right person to be there.
Okay. But hold on. Would you consider me the right person to be there? My person.
100%.
Hold on a
1,000,000%.
But I push back and I go, you need to give me something to work with. Me being here and being a PT is not enough to work with here. What is my purpose? Like, I want to be the actor on set and be like, hey, director, give me direction. What's my motivation for this scene? And a lot of times it's like, I need you to be there. And I go, then send a billboard.
What were you going to say, Dave?
So like obviously we're talking about some of these early therapists that don't have the budget to have someone like a Jimmy McKay do it. But if you did, I would say, the game plan would be say hello to as many people as possible. In fact, you should not be on the inside of the table. You have to be on the outside. We don't want a barrier. Yes. We don't want a barrier between you and the attendees of this health fair or wherever you are. So that's what I did when I had Vinicial at PPS 2 different years. I had a booth. I was not on the inside of the booth. I was on the outside, and I was stopping and saying hello to every single person. Hey, I'm a physical therapist. I'm a practice owner, and I have this thing. So the game plan for you, Jimmy, would be like, just be yourself. So it would be say hello, make eye contact, shake as many hands as possible, meet people. That's like the biggest number. And then the next number in that funnel would be lead generation. So how many name, phone number, email contacts can you get, even if they show some interest, some slight interest in whatever, the therapy or whatever it is.
This is where I go full Jordan Belfort. I go, I go, sell me this pen. And the thing is, I think a lot of PTs do this wrong where they set up a table, and I'm not saying you got to spend 60 grand to matter. I'm saying doing it well, you could spend $100 and do it well. There needs to be a perfect. So I go to Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street, sell me this pen. And you guys know the trick behind sell me this pen, right? Which is, it's not about the pen. It's not about you. It's about them. Hey, tell me, how'd your 5K go? Like if you're doing, let's say you're at the end of a 5K. How'd it go? How long did you train? Gosh, I never ask people what their time was. I always ask, how'd you feel when you crossed the finish line? Man, you going to do another one? Like nothing's about you. Understand you're in the experience business and you're trying to, I go back to my cryptic post a couple days ago. You're in the attention business. And if you're going to stand behind a table with a massage gun and a weird tent, that's some bet. You're not going to get attention. And any attention you get is going to say pretty negative things about you, in my opinion. But if you can turn it around and you can bring a personality and your goal is lead generation, but you don't have to get everybody to sign up. This is where I think a lot of people screw up too, where they're like, let's do a giveaway. And like, I used to work in radio, man, and giveaways are lazy if they are just to do a giveaway. Like the quickest way to burn $100 is just. And
the leads are not good. All the contacts, they're caring about the giveaway, but not about whatever. And they're like, what company are you? What do you guys do?
Correct. Do you remember that party I did at CSM 2 years ago, Party with a Purpose? So we'll do a longer episode on this if you want, because I did a solo one. It'd be better for your thoughts and how I just like conned a bunch of companies out of money in a good way to then throw a better party than they would have spent their money on individually. But each organization that donated, right, to help me throw the party got a proportionate number of tickets. And then I met with them and they were like, well, what are we going to do with these tickets? And I was like, guys, let me walk you right through this. Give them to your staff, but you're going to get more tickets than your staff is probably going to be on hand. I'm like, you could run a giveaway, like, hey, put your business card or sign up on this iPad to go into that. I'm like, do some of that. Also have a couple in your back pocket. And when you're 10 minutes into someone, you're like, this is my ideal person. I want you to look around like this, like, hey man, I'm not supposed to do this, but I got this party. Would you want to come to something like this? Because it's not about you. Now I have access to this thing. And did we sell out that party? Yes. In fact, people snuck into my charity party. People were lying and faking their way into a charity party, physical therapists. And to me, that was the ultimate sign that we had done something. When you threw a party so cool, I'm using air quotes, that people were trying to sneak in. I wasn't selling alcohol or food or a museum or a band. I was selling exclusivity, and people loved that.
So let me ask you guys one more question as we run out of time. And this goes back to the patient experience and impact, and every decision we make around our business should have an expected outcome. Kind of what Jimmy was just saying. Paying. Does the patient pay before the service is delivered? Does the patient pay after the service is delivered? How does that impact the patient experience? Dave, your people are paying, right? And we know that they could pay per session. They could pay for the package. They could pay before. They could pay after. How do you curate that? What do you see as value in them paying when they pay and what they pay?
One thing is we don't do packages anymore. We can get into that. We do. We tell them over email. We tell them over the phone the cost, flat rate, and we'll say no. You definitely will not get any surprise medical bill, no hidden fees, no commute fee, no other fee or anything like that. You know, $300 per visit, Monday through Friday, $500 per visit on the weekends. They know exactly that. They hear it. Then we got to send it over a text message or an email with the new client paperwork. Sometimes it bites me in the butt, but like sometimes we will see them for a few visits before we even have the credit card on file or something like that. And that's just because of the speed of like, we want to be concierge. We want to be like, we want to get the therapist there as soon as possible, get the plan of care started. Then sometimes we have to chase people down to get the paperwork signed, but no, they're not paying up front. Like for example, I told you that a couple episodes ago, like where I hired some personal training company to see a client who wants 5 sessions a week, and I'm managing it all, and we're charging the physical therapy price, but we're outsourcing and subcontracting basically to a personal training company. So I paid a package to the personal training company, but then I'm gonna charge the patient's credit card at the end of the month or whatever, and I'm gonna make $3,000 profit on the whole 24 sessions or whatever. So it's like bonkers. I don't need to make the money up front because I want to lessen the entry point of someone coming in, because they don't even know what it necessarily is going to be, right? They haven't met the therapist yet. There is the good approach of like, hey, the evaluation is $200 or $300 or whatever dollars. And then at that visit, the therapist selling the package. I just don't think any of my therapists are good or great enough, or I don't want to have them right now learn the whole sales process to then sell a package. And then at the end of the package, then me or them or whoever, we have to resell another package, because we have some folks that stay with us for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and they love us. And so we don't do it packages anymore. We do the dollar amount visit. They know what it is. And that's why we have some people that stay with us and they spend $20 or $30 or $40,000.
I'll answer this one. I went out to dinner last night. My dad took me out to dinner to his favorite restaurant. My dad's very picky about where we eat. And this answer sounds like, or is going to be in relation to this new tipping culture that we have going on, where every time you swipe a credit card, it's like, how much tip? I'm like, I'm buying a $2 cup of coffee. Why am I giving 30% to you? And I heard great advice on a Instagram reel. And the idea was, if I pay you, then get my thing, I don't tip. So if I order my cup of coffee at Starbucks, I pay you, and then I go stand over there and wait, I'm not tipping you, because
you don't know how good it is.
I don't know how good it is, right? I've lost my leverage in this experience, but I know I'm partially buying an experience at Starbucks, right? Because it's the aesthetic and it's I get to walk around with the logo on the cup. But that's a transaction. Like Starbucks mass produces experience, but it's a transactional business. But last night I mentioned I went out to dinner at Ward's Bridge Inn in upstate New York. It's my dad's favorite restaurant. It's the best restaurant around. And we don't pay until we're done. Isn't that insane? You won't hand me a $4 coffee at Starbucks until I give you my credit card, but they laid $100 of filet mignon on the table and, sides. And they were just like, you're probably not going to run away, because we weren't buying the filet mignon. We could have bought them cheaper at home, probably not cooked them as well. but we bought the experience. We were sitting down for an hour. We were out. All those things. So it depends. What are you in the transaction business or are you in the experience business? I think I would like to scale, or, I'm not saying Starbucks is a bad model, but understand what business you're in. Are you in a transaction business? Then stand at a 5K with a massage gun and say it's 8 minutes for $5. If you're in the experience business like Dave is, and he's like, hey, this lifetime value of a customer is $30,000, and that person is terribly thrilled with what they've received in terms of experience and outcomes, I'd rather be in that business.
Yeah, I love these questions because you can pull so many different examples. So I use the dinner example a lot. I'm like, I go to, Chipotle and I can see my food and then I pay and then I go eat, and I go to McDonald's and all these different things. But then you say, which kind of contradicts what Jimmy is saying. Well, what about a cruise? I pay for a cruise up front. I don't pay afterward.
Oh, yeah, yes.
And then I get the whole experience afterward. I love just getting the payment out of the way, right? Like, let me just bite the bullet. Let me pay the big ticket item. Let me get it out of my way. And then let me enjoy the rest of it. I could see benefit in that from a physical therapy perspective. I want to pay for the whole plan of care. It's going to be $3,600, total knee replacement, whatever, 6 weeks. Fine. Let me just pay that right now. And now we get that out of the way and we can just focus on the experience. I used to be of the mindset that if a patient had a $50 copay, I would want them to pay it after they received the treatment. Similar to the restaurant, I want them feeling their best. I want them to be blown away by the experience, and then I want them to pay. Now, I don't do that anymore. Now it's right up front. This is the cost. Will you pay it or not? Get it done, and then let them go on and enjoy the rest of the experience. I do tend to think it's more enjoyable to be done with your payment, leave the clinic feeling amazing, than to get the treatment, then have to stop and pay for it. But it goes both ways. I could see it happening in both directions.
Yeah, we're supposed to have really, like, to be a really successful live stream or podcast, you're supposed to like Stephen A. Smith, like, I believe this way and this way only. But yeah, I could see it either way. And I think it depends on, like, what are the people you're trying to attract expect? What do you feel comfortable doing? It's an awkward experience if you don't even like the thing you're asking, pay before, pay after. So I'd say it starts to you, because like ski resort, golf, both of those things are kind of high ticket. Cruise, I didn't think about it like that. Cruise, yeah, you do. I would want to know. This would be great research for ChatGPT. If it's not an all-inclusive cruise, and I think even the ones that are all-inclusive, there's still some things you can upsell. And if they're not, they're leaving money on the table, right? I'd love to know what percentage of that is upsell, because, right, hey, listen, come in for $800 a person and everything's included, but we do have the Black Lounge, which is like, the VIP behind the the velvet rope lounge, or we do have eat anywhere you want, but we do have the penthouse dining area where it's probably the same food, but you have a slightly better view. Again, you're selling access and experience, and I think you can sort of define that. That would be interesting, because I didn't think about the golf's the same way. You pay for the greens fees. You pay to ride around and swing a club, for me, 150 times. But then, they want to keep you there for lunch, which honestly, a lot of golf clubs, I think, are really bad at this. Like, where's the guy for just a tip taking the bag off your cart and saying like, hey, on the 16th, there's a button that you push, the intercom goes, what can we get started? Is it 4 of you dining? We'll have a drink waiting for you. Like, what's the markup on alcohol and desserts, right?
Yes,
like, that's the whole
close.
Yeah, like, how do we get you? Hey, 19th hole, man. I think they understand they're an experience business. There's still a lot of room to improve.
So I think the big takeaway from today, and we'll think about parting shots while I say this, is these are proven business models. Like cruise, it's proven. It's been around for a long time. It's profitable. It works. Chipotle, Starbucks, all of these things are proven business models. They all work in different ways. They see different consumers. So what lessons can we take out of these proven models to improve the quality and the experience that we can deliver? Scott said expectations are higher for people that pay before a service versus after.
Good.
and put that up there.
Is it?
Expectations
Okay.
are higher for people that pay before a service versus after.
That's like
Possibly.
Starbucks versus the restaurant, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I like sort of feeling like I'm in control. Like, hey, you sort of like need to bring me my drink within 20 minutes, or else, hey, man, like, what's the deal here? So I sort of like feeling like I'm in control. Because, yeah, the minute I pay for whatever, like Chipotle, and then they hand it to me, and then I'm like, where's the guac, dude? Like, now I feel like I'm shorted. And what's my repercussion? Be it, like, complain to, well, I want to talk to the manager. I don't want to do that.
My parting shot would be listening to some of what David said. I also think the more the consumer, the prospect, understands what's coming, the more willing they would be to pay up front and pay a premium, and I think this is where, again, we drop the ball. We assume they know what we're going to do, what we're going to deliver. We assume they know that we're different than everybody else. I saw a great video that Dave put out of him on the streets in New York with a patient. Like, more of that kind of real world content is what needs to get out there, because that is our sales team. If we're not going to go the Hermosi route and pay somebody just to sell high ticket packages for us, we have to have YouTube and Instagram and TikTok doing the selling for us. And the way we do that is showing them real experiences, real interactions. I get more people that come to me from YouTube that have watched all of my videos, and they're throwing money at me because they know what they're going to get. I think that's a huge impact on being able to close that deal. What are your guys' closing thoughts?
What do you got, Dave?
Parting shot, closing thought here. Going back to the intro phone calls, they don't necessarily have to be longer. I just want to get that. I know I said the longer the better with the intro phone call for free, but it's asking the right questions. It's making sure that that caller is the right fit for your practice. No one knows your practice better than you. That caller, they need to be the right fit. You need to kind of know that you and your therapist will be able to provide them a great experience. And at the same time, making sure that you could literally say, hey, I just want to make sure that you're the right fit for us, because it helps with status. It helps with getting their attention. It's going to be a different phone call than every other place that they're calling around, because every other place that they're calling around, they answer the phone like, what's your insurance, before they're even asking your name. Like, and that's a little bit more on the physician side, but like also physical therapy practices are guilty of that as well. So asking the right questions, making sure it's the right fit for both sides. Sometimes will result in longer phone calls, but that's my style. So hopefully you guys can learn something from it.
Try stuff out. The only way you figure out what doesn't work is by trying it and going all in, right? Like, I know we all have preconceived notions, but whatever. I mean, Amazon was going to sell books, guys. Amazon was just going to sell books. That's all they were going to do. And now they didn't, because they tried some stuff out. And there's some monumental failures out there. It's funny how quickly we forget. Like Apple, MacBook, baby. Remember the Lisa? No? Okay. Look that up. Figure that out. So there's some monumental failures, and it's okay to fail hard, and fail in public. Like we sort of, and now in this world of transparency, we almost sort of respect more people who are like, yeah, we definitely thought this was going to work, and it doesn't. I've found more success when I try to act continually like the student and open to change versus the guru. I mean, there's always going to be people looking for the gurus, but I think the age, or the guru age, is peaked, right, for that thing. And now it's like, I just want people who are in it with me for that. All right, gentlemen, we come back on Tuesday. Follow everybody online. We'll put the socials in there. We've got Tony and his Learn Medicare Billing. We got the Dave Kittle Show on YouTube. We got PT Pintcast. I want to come back with, we're going to dig into some technology in the next couple of weeks on my podcast. People, physical therapists in specifics, who've taken an idea and created a product, a physical product, an app, a thing. There's been a lot of discussion, like, how the hell do you do that? And the funny thing is, the people that have done it are more than excited to actually be like, okay, like, get this. I talked to Helena Esmond, who I work with now at Vestibular First, and like just digging into, because it's an FDA medical device they created with their infrared goggles. The process to do that. Oh, it's so easy. Just fill out some paperwork. Hang on to your hats, kids. So if you're thinking about doing it, listen to people who've actually done it. So I think I'll do some content on that as well. Maybe we can bring some of those people on. All right, gentlemen. Until next time, have a great weekend, okay?